Here at home, Chuck Schumer, yes, the very same one who stood by silently as Joe Biden drained our strategic petroleum reserve for political points, is now demanding that Trump tap it.
I'm calling on President Trump to immediately release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to help bring prices down. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve exists precisely for moments like this. If President Trump cared about easing pain at the pump, he would act to release these reserves now. But instead of acting, Donald Trump is lost in a sea of delusional thinking.
Joining us now, former Energy Secretary during President Trump's first term, Dan Brouillette. Dan, great to have you with us tonight. Lots of questions about the price of oil today, okay? It was a wild day. Last night got up near $120 a barrel. Today it's been as low as the low 80s. Does that tell you that we've got an oil problem that could stick around for a while, or does it tell you that we've got an oil problem that should resolve itself pretty quickly?
Well, great to be with you. It's certainly the latter. I mean, what we saw today in the gyration of the prices from roughly 120, I saw just a couple of minutes ago, down around $85 a barrel, tells you this has more to do with market psychology and assigning risk premiums to the future delivery of oil. It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with the amount of oil that's available in the marketplace. When you look at the numbers coming out of OPEC, when you look at the numbers coming out of the Energy Information Administration here in Washington, D.C., or even the IEA, which is based out of Paris, what you see are global supply numbers that show about 106 million barrels of oil per day being produced. Our global demand is somewhere around 104 or 105 million barrels per day. So there's a credible argument to be made that our supply exceeds our demand, and as such, oil is readily available in the marketplace.
So the Secretary, I want to ask you about Senator Schumer's calls to tap the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I do want to note that I think it's interesting here that Senator Schumer blocked President Trump's attempt to fill the SPR even more during the first Trump administration when you were a part of the administration then. Kind of ironic now that Schumer's calling to tap it. But that aside, what do you make of his call to tap it? Do we need it?
No, it's a dumb idea. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve was established to address what is known as an energy shock. It's when you cannot physically get the oil in the marketplace, much like we saw in 1973, which is about the time the reserve was established. I think it was established in 1974. So if the market freezes up and you just cannot get a barrel of oil, then of course you want a reserve so you can put that in the marketplace. That is not the situation we have here today. What we're dealing with today are market gyrations. That's much different than an energy emergency. And you're absolutely right to point out that Senator Schumer would not allow me as Secretary to fill it up when oil prices, I should say, were in the low teens. So we could have filled it up in 2020 very, very easily. He chose not to allow us to do that. A little bit strange to see him today on the Senate floor.
You know, I totally agree with you on the production side. Supply is not the problem in the world we live in, especially with America's energy policy. But man, moving the ships that carry that oil is a huge issue right now. You can't get them into the strait. You can't get them out. And that's the bigger problem because all the storage tanks are filling up. Do you think that's an issue that's going to get resolved in a period of a week or two? Or is that going to take a lot longer? And the reason I ask is because I think Iran knows the best leverage it has is to keep creating chaos in that very narrow body of water. How do you see that playing out?
It's being resolved as we speak, and I think that's what the American people, what the world needs to understand, is that there are ideas that are on the table that easily fix this problem. I heard of, what the administration was attempting to do, or is still doing, I should say. They met today to discuss this. But the use of things like the DFC here in Washington, D.C., and its enormous balance sheet to provide reinsurance to these commercial insurers and these commercial shippers goes a long way. The idea of using the Navy, making the Navy more visible, putting them in the strait, allowing them to escort ships, goes a long way to calm the markets and calm the psychology around what we're seeing today in the marketplace. It's important to recognize, and I think you just pointed this out, what we're talking about here is not the production of oil and gas. We've solved that problem a long time ago. We know how to produce that here in the United States. We know how to produce it around the world. This is a logistics problem, and it reminds us just how important infrastructure is in the business of energy. We can produce it, we just need to be able to get it to market. So when we think about that here in the United States, we should think about pipelines, we should think about transmission towers, all the things that President Trump and his team are focused on right at the minute.
Well, as we think about that infrastructure, I do want to bring another issue kind of into the fold of our discussion, and that's Russia. Congressional Democrats are now demanding that the Trump administration reverse last week's 30-day waiver that's allowing Indian refiners to buy Russian crude that's currently stranded out at sea. Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think, at the moment, there are certain players in the marketplace who cannot receive oil because they're on the other side of that strait. And if there is a way that we can allow some of the oil that is on the right side of that strait, on the open ocean, to be used by certain players, then I think it makes some sense. I do think we have to be careful, though, in the long run. This is money, these are revenues that potentially go back to players that are adversarial to the United States, people like Mr. Putin and others, around the world. We have to be careful with it, but it's the right thing to do in the near term.
Just with the few seconds we have remaining, is there anything else you want to see this administration do in the next day or two to really bring calm to the markets and get rid of this risk premium?
Look, I think they're doing it. I think what the president has announced that he wants to do, the updates that they are providing on the activities in the region, the military activities in the region, I think are very, very helpful. They help traders understand what is the timetable, what is the duration that this event may have. But I think they're doing everything they know how to do and everything that they can do today.
Former Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette, you know what you're talking about. We're very glad to have your perspective tonight. Thanks for being with us.